Hello everyone and welcome to Project Auto. Today I'm going to be showing you guys an Android radio DIY for the Prefacelift W204 C-Class. It's a little different from the normal Android radios that you see. It's not one of the widescreen ones, it's one that looks a little more integrated, which is primarily why I chose it. And you'll kind of see a quick glimpse of the after result here. Looks like the OEM Comand system, and that's one of the things I like about it. The tablet style ones really look out of place in my opinion, and frankly it doesn't match the rest of the car, so I think this one's a much better fit and it's much better priced. I'll have a link in the description below where I got the radio. Anyways, here's me unpacking the product. So similar to the other head unit I actually got from my Chrysler 300, this is I think built off of the same platform. And if you're curious, you can watch the installation video on that as well. I had a really good experience with it. So when I saw one was available for my C-Class, I figured this would be a good opportunity to upgrade the radio. One thing that you should note when installing this is you are going to lose the CD player capability. If that matters a lot to you, then you might have to just stick with the factory radio. But once you can have the capability of adding songs on USB, it's just so much better not having to worry about scratching CDs or anything like that. So anyway, here's kind of like a view of the unit itself and the, I guess, bezel that comes with it. It's shaped as such, so it kind of sits in the vehicle slot where the unit is normally placed. And we got to do a little bit of assembly here. So as you can see here, the unit itself is first separate from the bezel. So the unit is a pretty nice size screen and very similar to the other one. It's got some very simple connections that are pretty easy to manage. So one thing we're going to look for is the screw slots, and then we're going to line those up with the bezel, and then we are going to pretty much screw them in. Now, one thing that might be easier to do first, which I find out the second time actually after I try to do this, is that it's probably best to connect the wires, the cables to the unit first, at least some specific ones like the antenna connector and whatnot, and then put the wires through the bezel and then screwing them together. Just because if you put the bezel on first, if you connect the bezel in the radio itself first, you won't be able to actually connect some of the cables because there's not enough room. So you have to put the cables first, as I will demonstrate here, followed by attaching the bezel. And you can use my video as reference here. Everything pretty much kind of plugs into its own space. It's relatively self-explanatory, and if you need more reference, you can also refer to my Chrysler 300 video where I go a little bit more in depth, but it's kind of hard to mess up. Everything kind of goes more or less into one place, and it's pretty easy for even if you don't have any experience with electronics. So now that that's done, we're going to move to the vehicle and we're going to remove the head unit. So there's kind of three components that we're going to take apart here. It's the upper display, the climate control vents, and then the CD player and where the heated seats are located. And you'll kind of see how that all comes apart here in a second. But first thing, what we want to do is we want to unplug our batteries. So that means popping open the hood, removing the air filter router cover, and then we are going to disconnect the negative terminal, cover it in something non-conductive. I just take a microfiber cloth and make sure that it's not going to contact anything while we're working on anything here. Just because in this case you don't want to get, I don't know, an electrical shocker. You don't want to mess up the electronics in your cars. Kind of the big thing. So you want to make sure that the battery is disconnected. I want to say it's probably a 10 millimeter nut that needs to be loosened, but we'll just do that because that's the mandatory step here. If you don't, then you're kind of mess up your vehicle's security system or something. So you want to make sure that you disconnect the battery, make sure it's not touching anything metallic because this is the ground and nothing conductive, and you should be good to work on the vehicle. So now once we get back into the car, we are free to work on taking apart the radio. So what you really want to do is start by removing these two upper covers actually. And here I'm kind of messing around with loosening the sides of the vents, but and it might help, it might not. Since this was the first time I was doing it, was probably a little more difficult, so I'm not sure if this helped as much. But really what you want to do is you want to remove the two rubber inserts on the lower part of the display, and you can use your trim tool for that. You simply pop them out. They're just like little, not really clips, but just inserts, I guess. And you're going to do that for both of them. They're really easy to pop in, pop out. And of course, you want to make sure that there's going to be a lot of, not a lot of, but a decent amount of small pieces here. So you want to make sure wherever you put them, you don't want to lose them, since these are technically visible items. So once we actually get those tabs open, you can slide something inside that has a 90-degree angle, I would say, that allows you to pull the vents outwards. Now, this does come in some more, I guess, elaborate trim removal kits, and I'll have a link to one in the description below, which I think is probably the best bang for the buck. It's got a lot of these tools that are really similar, and they make this job really easy, to say the least, because you can't really do this with a flathead screwdriver, and you don't want to damage your vehicle or anything while doing this. And these are just, they're not that expensive, and if you ever have to do anything on any car ever again, it's very likely you'll need them. Pretty much we're going to pop the tool into those little tabs and kind of pull outwards. Like I said, first time it's going to be maybe a little difficult to get them loose, but fortunately you can't really break it as far as I know. I mean, I haven't broken it yet, so you can always go back to the sides with another pry tool to help kind of assist getting them out. But like I said, once you do it the first time, then it's a piece of cake. So as you can see here, there's kind of a couple different methods to do it, but really what it comes down to is don't be afraid to pull as long as your tool is appropriate for the situation, because if you're using something like a screwdriver, you might break pieces, and these tools are all meant to give you leverage in these places that you don't have leverage. So there is two cables here in the climate section, one for the traction control button and another for the hazard button, I believe. So we're going to basically just unplug those and remove them basically by kind of untwisting them from where they sit. and you may need to use a little screwdriver or something to help you get these out. Like all the other clips, you're going to have to push in a small piece of it that kind of sticks out, and then that'll give you the clearance to pull the plug.